Amy Slayton's spouse, Brian Lovvorn, has been apprehended on theft allegations. It is purported that he embezzled funds from his wife's elder sister, Tammy Slayton. Upon discovering the incident, Tammy promptly notified law enforcement. This event has generated significant discord within the family, with Tammy stating unequivocally, "I cannot accept this betrayal. I never anticipated that someone dear to me would betray me." Nevertheless, Amy has remained steadfastly supportive of her husband from the outset. "I have known Brian for approximately a year," she stated, her voice trembling with emotion. "He is a gentleman. I am confident he would not engage in such behavior." Amy professes her affection for Brian, yet the rest of the family contests her conviction, asserting that all evidence implicates him and urging her to confront reality. This situation has reportedly strained the relationship between Amy and Tammy. The outcome of the investigation remains to be seen, and the possibility of family reconciliation is uncertain. Only time will reveal the truth. Amy Slayton had just returned from a therapy session, striving to concentrate on her healing journey following years of emotional turmoil. Her husband, Brian Lovvorn, welcomed her at the door with his characteristic charming smile and a cup of sweet iced tea. However, tranquility was short-lived. A few hours later, Tammy Slayton burst into Amy's residence, her phone tightly grasped in her hand, her eyes inflamed with rage. "Where's Brian?" she demanded, her voice quivering with anger. Amy, startled and confused, asked what was going on. That's when Tammy dropped the bombshell. Someone had accessed her personal safe in her bedroom, and nearly $6,000 in cash was missing. There were no signs of a break-in. Only a few people knew the combination, and Brian was one of them. "I trusted him like a brother," Tammy cried. "And he betrayed me." Amy was in shock. She refused to believe it. "Brian would never do that. You know him, Tammy." But Tammy didn't back down. "You think you know him. You've only been married a few months. I've seen things you ignore because you're in love." That night, police arrived at Amy's house with a warrant. They found suspicious transactions in Brian's bank account and new electronics stashed in the garage, all purchased shortly after Tammy's money went missing. Brian was arrested on the spot. Amy watched in horror as her husband was handcuffed and taken away. "Amy, I swear I didn't do it," he shouted, struggling against the officers. "This is a setup. Someone's trying to ruin us." But the damage was done. The Slayton family exploded in arguments. Chris and Misty sided with Tammy, begging Amy to open her eyes and stop defending someone who might have taken advantage of her vulnerability. "He's using her heart against you," Misty said. Amy, however, isolated herself, confused, heartbroken, torn between the man she loved and the sister who had always been her rock. In the weeks that followed, Amy stopped filming for the show. The stress had taken a toll on her mental health. Tammy tried reaching out, but their conversations always ended in tears or silence. Then came the twist no one expected. A security camera from a neighbor's house revealed a shadowy figure entering Tammy's room through the window. The police reviewed the footage, and it wasn't Brian. It was Tammy's ex-boyfriend, someone with a long record of petty theft and break-ins. Brian was released after spending nearly 2 weeks in jail. Charges were dropped. Amy rushed to him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, clutching his hand. But Brian didn't respond the same way. Something had changed in him, a coldness in his eyes, a bitterness that prison had planted deep inside. Meanwhile, Tammy was devastated by the revelation. She apologized to Amy, but the apology came too late. The damage between the sisters was deeper than ever before. In a heartfelt confessional on the show, Amy said, "I don't know if things will ever be the same between me and Tammy. This whole thing, it's made me question everything. Who I trust. Who I am." Tammy, looking at the camera with regret, added, "I wanted to protect myself, but I hurt the one person who's always been by my side. I don't know how to fix that." However, it was a bright and breezy Sunday in Kentucky, and the Slayton sisters, Amy and Tammy, were up unusually early for a very special reason. Mother's Day had arrived, and this year, They had vowed to do something truly memorable for their beloved mom, Darlene. No drama, no bickering, just love, laughter, and a whole lot of tea. Amy, ever the planner, had the idea weeks in advance. Inspired by a YouTube video she watched about a fancy British afternoon tea, she decided to recreate the experience in their own backyard. "We're gonna be fancy as heck," she told Tammy, twirling with excitement as she held a vintage teacup she'd found at a thrift store. Tammy was skeptical at first. "You want me to dress up like the queen and sip tea in the backyard?" she complained. However, Amy's enthusiasm and the prospect of pleasing their mother mollified her. With assistance from Amy's husband, Michael, and their young son, Gage, who acted as a tea delivery boy, the sisters entered full preparation mode. They adorned the backyard with delicate pink and white tablecloths, floral centerpieces, and an eclectic assortment of charming china cups and plates. Amy even procured a banner that proclaimed, "Happy Mother's Day, Mama," embellished with glittery hearts. Tammy, donning a wide-brimmed hat and a floral dress chosen by Amy, gazed into the mirror and remarked, "Well, damn, I look like a Kentucky Derby queen," prompting the sisters to erupt in laughter. Their mother, Darlene, arrived fashionably late, as per usual. Her jaw dropped upon witnessing her daughter's efforts. Anticipating a modest lunch, perhaps a pizza, she instead entered what resembled a southern tea garden. "Amy, Tammy, you did all this for me?" she said, her eyes misty. "Of course, Mama," Amy beamed. "You deserve this and more." They all sat around the table, sipping tea with sugar cubes and nibbling on finger sandwiches, scones with strawberry jam, and mini cupcakes that Amy decorated herself. Gage climbed up into his grandma's lap with a cookie in hand, smearing frosting on her shirt, and no one even minded. They played a game of Mama Trivia, where Amy and Tammy took turns asking their mom questions about her childhood and early motherhood days. They learned things they never knew, like how Darlene once rode a motorcycle in her teens and used to dream of becoming a country singer. As the sun began to set, Tammy stood up, holding her tea in a wobbly hand. "I just want to say," she began, clearing her throat, "that even though we've been through a lot of stuff, I'm really glad we got to do this today. You're a tough lady, Mama, and you raised us to be tough too." Darlene smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You girls may drive me crazy half the time, but you're my heart. Always have been." The evening ended with a family photo. Amy, Tammy, their mama, Michael, and little Gage all squeezed together under a blooming magnolia tree. It wasn't perfect. Tammy accidentally knocked over the teapot. Gage cried for 5 minutes because he dropped a cupcake. And Amy burned her thumb on a kettle. But it was real. And it was beautiful. A Mother's Day tea that none of them would ever forget. However, the summer sun poured gently through the blinds of the Slayton family home in Kentucky. The scent of fresh biscuits drifted from the kitchen, where Amy was bustling about in her usual chaotic yet lovable way. Tammy sat in her recliner, flipping channels, grumbling about how there was never anything good on TV anymore. That's when Chris walked in. His face was flushed, not from exertion, but from something deeper. He was buzzing with energy, trying hard to hide the huge smile threatening to burst across his face. "Tammy," Chris said, his voice trembling a little, "I got something to tell you." Tammy turned toward him, raising an eyebrow. "If it ain't about food or money, I ain't interested." Amy laughed from the kitchen. "Oh, hush, Tammy. Let the man talk." Chris stepped closer, his hand clutching a folded piece of paper. "I went to see Dr. Smith yesterday for my final pre-op evaluation." Tammy immediately sat up straighter, eyes narrowing with curiosity. And Chris unfolded the paper slowly, dramatically. He said, "I'm approved. I'm finally getting the surgery." For a moment, silence fell over the room like a heavy quilt. Tammy blinked. Amy froze mid-spoonful of mashed potatoes. "Then what?" Tammy screeched, slapping the armrest. "You serious?" Chris grinned wide now, his face glowing. "Dead serious." He said, "My blood pressure's down, my blood sugar's stable, and I've lost enough weight to qualify. Surgery's in 2 weeks." Amy dropped the spoon and ran over to give him a big hug, tears forming in her eyes. Chris, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Even Tammy, who rarely showed her emotions, looked visibly moved. She swallowed hard and said, Damn, Chris, I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. You've been talking about it for years. I didn't think I could, he admitted. But watching you and Amy fight through it, it made me believe I could, too. Tammy gave a small, genuine smile, something rare and precious. Well, hell, looks like you're gonna be the skinniest Slayton soon. Chris laughed. Don't jinx me now. I still gotta survive the hospital food. Later that evening, the three siblings sat outside on the porch, sipping iced tea and reflecting on how far they'd come. The path hadn't been easy, full of heartbreak, relapses, doctor visits, and doubts. But now, for the first time in a long while, there was real hope in the air. Chris looked up at the sky and whispered, This ain't the end of the journey. It's just the beginning. And in that quiet Kentucky evening, the Slayton siblings shared something they hadn't in a while: faith in themselves and in each other. A new chapter was beginning. However, the sun peeked through the blinds of the small Kentucky home, casting soft rays across the living room where Tammy Slayton lay sprawled on the couch, wrapped in a blanket that had half fallen onto the floor. Her hair was a mess of curls tangled in glitter from the night before, and her makeup was smeared across her cheeks like war paint. Tammy groaned, squinting as she sat up slowly. Ugh, my head feels like a marching band had a fight with a freight train, she muttered. Empty cans of hard seltzer, confetti, and what looked suspiciously like a unicorn piñata's severed head littered the room. It had been Tammy's first real party in a long time, a girls' night she had begged Amy for after being cooped up for weeks. After a long streak of staying on track with her health and therapy goals, Tammy wanted one night of fun. And boy, did she go all out. Amy, in her Hello Kitty pajamas and pink slippers, waddled in holding 2 mugs of strong coffee. I told you not to mix Fireball with cotton candy vodka, she said, giving her sister a look. You were trying to twerk on the coffee table, girl. Tammy rubbed her temples. That wasn't a coffee table. That was a footstool. No wonder it collapsed. Gage, Amy's toddler, ran into the room and pointed at Tammy, giggling. Auntie Tam Tam looks like a zombie. Tammy flopped back down on the couch with a dramatic sigh. I feel like one too, Gage. Amy set the coffee down and started gathering up streamers and solo cups. Do you even remember what you said last night? You tried to order 50 tacos from Taco Bell at 3 a.m., then cried because you thought the delivery driver sounded like Elvis. Tammy squinted. Wait, that wasn't Elvis?
No, Tammy.
It was some poor guy named Derek who just wanted to drop off your crunch wraps and go home. Tammy groaned. Never again. I am never partying like that again. Just then, their cousin Misty FaceTimed them, laughing the moment she saw Tammy's disheveled face. Y'all alive or what? Tammy, you were singing Wrecking Ball on the front porch at 1 a.m. in your socks. Amy cackled, and yelling, I am the party, while waving a glow stick like a lightsaber. Tammy turned red. Okay, I get it. No more partying like that. From now on, it's juice cleanses and Netflix. But as Misty hung up and Amy continued cleaning, Tammy looked at the last half-full can of seltzer on the coffee table. Maybe just one more sip. Amy snatched it from her. Nope. The sisters burst out laughing. It was a disaster of a night, but also a memory they'd never forget. Because with all the chaos, one thing remained true. When life gets messy, sisters clean it up together and occasionally pass out in glitter on the couch. However, it was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday afternoon. Amy had invited everyone over to her new house for a family barbecue. With Gage and Glenn playing in the backyard, Michael flipping burgers at the grill, and their sister Misty helping in the kitchen, Amy had hoped for a calm, drama-free day. But when Tammy rolled in on her electric scooter with an attitude as heavy as the humidity outside, things took a sharp left turn. Tammy was already irritated. She had called Amy 3 times that morning asking for help getting ready, and Amy hadn't picked up. Her makeup wasn't done right, her hair was frizzing in the heat, and to top it off, Someone parked in the only spot wide enough for her van. You couldn't have saved me a damn spot, Amy? Tammy snapped as she scooted through the backyard gate, nearly knocking over a tray of deviled eggs. Amy turned around, holding a plate of hot dogs. I'm sorry, Tam. I was inside with the kids. I didn't know you were here already. Tammy rolled her eyes. Of course you didn't. You only care about yourself now that you're skinny and married. The yard went silent. Michael looked up from the grill, and Misty froze mid-pour with a sweet tea. Even Gage sensed the tension and stopped digging in the sandbox. Amy clenched her jaw and took a deep breath. You know what, Tammy? I've had enough. Every time we try to get together as a family, you show up mad at the world. You make everything about you. Tammy shot back, because no one else ever does. When I was in that rehab fighting for my life, where were y'all? Amy's face reddened. We were there. I called you every day. I brought your clothes. I cried every night praying you'd survive. But you don't see that because you're too busy blaming everyone. Tammy's voice rose. You don't know what it's like being trapped in your body, Amy. You got out. You have a husband, kids, a house. All I got is a chat machine and a damn scooter. And whose fault is that, Tammy? Amy shouted, tears brimming in her eyes. You push everyone away. You act like we owe you something just because you're struggling. Tammy went quiet for a second. Then she whispered, I don't want to be left behind. The air softened instantly. Amy's anger cracked, and tears finally rolled down her cheeks. You're not left behind, Tammy, she said quietly, walking over to her. But you gotta stop attacking us. We love you. We want you here. But not if you're gonna keep tearing us apart. Tammy lowered her head, visibly trembling. For once, her pride gave way to vulnerability. I don't know how to stop, she whispered. I feel so angry all the time. And scared. Amy kneeled in front of her and took her hand. Then let's work on it. Together. But you gotta let us in, Tam. You're not alone anymore. Tammy nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. The rest of the afternoon was quieter. There were no more fights, just the smell of barbecue, the sound of Gage giggling, and two sisters, still broken in places, starting to mend. However, the Kentucky sun rose over Dixon, and the quiet town was just beginning to stir. But in the Slayton sisters' world, the morning had already begun with heavy thoughts and even heavier emotions. Amy sat on her front porch, rocking gently, with baby Glenn asleep on her chest. Her eyes were tired, not from sleepless nights alone, but from the emotional weight of everything she and her sister Tammy had been through in the last year. Tammy, meanwhile, was still inside. She hadn't come out since her latest hospital visit 3 days ago. It had started with what seemed like another routine checkup. But Tammy's oxygen levels had dropped dangerously low.
She was rushed to the ER.
For a moment, the whole family thought they were going to lose her. Amy remembered gripping the hospital chair so hard her knuckles turned white as she waited for the doctor's update. Tammy had pulled through, but barely. And the truth hit harder than any scale reading ever could. They couldn't keep living like this. After returning home, Tammy locked herself in her room. The mirror had become her enemy. Her anger at the world was now replaced by silence. Amy, struggling with postpartum depression and trying to raise her baby, felt torn. She wanted to help Tammy, but she also needed help herself. I feel like I'm drowning too, Amy whispered one night to her husband Michael. But Michael had his own limits, and they both knew it. A family intervention was called. Chris, Amanda, and Misty sat Tammy down. You keep asking for change, but when are you going to be the change? Amanda snapped, tears in her voice. Tammy didn't argue this time. Instead, she broke down. And when Amy saw her sister like that, vulnerable, raw, finally ready, she walked over and hugged her. It was the first time in weeks. I'll go back to rehab, Tammy mumbled through sobs. But this time, please don't give up on me. Amy also made a decision. While Tammy went back to the weight loss facility, Amy began therapy. She needed to understand her own emotional eating and the guilt she carried for Tammy, for her failed marriage, and for feeling like she wasn't doing enough as a mother. Through weekly sessions and support from her siblings, Amy slowly began to build herself up again, not just physically, but mentally. 6 months later, Tammy returned home, 180 pounds lighter and emotionally stronger than she had ever been. She was different, calmer, smiling more, and for the first time, she asked about Glenn with genuine excitement, not exhaustion. Amy, too, had changed. She was more patient, more present. Her kitchen was filled with colorful fruits instead of soda cans. Her laugh, once hidden under layers of stress, came out freely now. One night, they sat on the porch together, watching the stars. "We almost lost everything," Tammy said. "But we didn't," Amy replied, squeezing her sister's hand. "We lost pieces of ourselves, sure, but we found our way back." However, it was a warm Sunday evening in Dixon, Kentucky, and Amy had gone all out to prepare a big family dinner. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of roasted chicken, mac and cheese, mashed potatoes, and Amy's famous banana pudding. It had been a while since the whole Slayton family sat around the same table, so Amy was determined to make the night special. Tammy rolled into the dining room in her wheelchair, already grumbling. "If there ain't no cornbread, I'm leavin'," she joked, though everyone knew she was only half kidding. Chris and Misty were already seated, helping themselves to the deviled eggs. Amanda arrived last, wearing a mysterious smile and carrying a covered dish. "Oh, what did you bring?" Amy asked, peeking under the lid. Amanda grinned slyly. "Something spicy, just like tonight's conversation." Everyone laughed, but they didn't yet know how serious Amanda was being. Dinner began with laughter and light teasing. Chris recounted an embarrassing story from his teenage years, and even Tammy chuckled with her mouth. "How much is a selfie really worth?" Reality TV star sparks outrage after charging fans wild prices. This is gross behavior. American TV star Amy Halterman has been slammed for charging fans wild prices for her photo and autograph. The 37-year-old has built an online following of 1.3 million thanks to her stint on the TV show 1000 LB Sisters, which follows her and sister Tammy Slayton's weight loss journeys. In July 2025, Amy advertised an upcoming social media influencer meet and greet event to be held in September in Kentucky. There, she plans to charge fans $20, 30 Australian dollars, to take a selfie with her and an additional $30, 46 Australian dollars, for an autograph. Many of Amy's followers were outraged by the prices and took to the comment section of her Instagram post to air their grievances. One fan labeled it gross behavior, while another couldn't fathom what they believed to be extortionate prices and simply wrote, "This is wild to me." Another commented, "This is disappointing. I remember watching you and Tammy have your first meet and greet, and it was about the fans and you guys cared about your impact on people. What has become of humility and grace?" While there were many complaints, Amy's meet and greet prices didn't discourage some fans' enthusiasm toward the event, and others even rushed to Amy's defense, explaining it was a very common and normal practice. "This has become a living for them and how they make money just like any other job. So please try not to take it personal, because it's not," one follower said. Some might argue that a reality star like Amy Halterman isn't exactly living the life of luxury, so there's no harm in making some extra coin if people are willing to pay. Right? Being famous, no matter to what extent, is a lucrative business after all. Money-making opportunities extend beyond fan meet and greets to paid appearances, personalized videos on platforms like Cameo, and even paid memberships to fan clubs. Of course, Amy isn't the only star to ask fans to cough up for a brief brush with their fame, albeit many would consider her a D-grade celeb at best. Star Wars legend Mark Hamill, who famously played Luke Skywalker, shocked fans with a sickening amount he charged for his autograph in June 2025. A photo shared on Reddit exposed that the 73-year-old was charging $400 for a single signed 8x10 photo, while a premium signature would set you back $500, and fans could expect to fork out $700 for a bulky autograph package, whatever that means. At the time, many fans blasted the actor, saying they'd lost respect. Others raised the point that the pricing could be a tactic to keep the number of attendees down and control the pace of the event. Greetings, esteemed viewers. welcome to my channel. I am Mina, and I hope your day is going splendidly. If you appreciate the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel.